So I thought I would read chapter 3 of Planted with Purpose by T.D. Jakes. And chapter 3, the heading is The Burial. Let's go. While we are in the midst of our crushing periods, we don't often stop and think about the process. Most of us just want it to end. We want to find the solution and move forward. We enjoy knowing we are gifted and have the ability to do something great, yet we don't smile brightly when we are placed in the refining process. But I challenge you, even in the midst of your crushing, to fully consider the seed and the process used to grow it from a small kernel to a plant. What happens to a seed if it's not planted? Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." John 12, verse 24. We cannot rightfully ask our vine dresser to skip out on the development of our lives simply because we are uncomfortable with being alone in dark places. That's deep. To keep a seed from being planted is to condemn that seed to never realizing its full potential. It is a fact that seeds are meant to be covered and die. No matter who we are, where we are in life, or where we've come from, we must begin to appreciate the ugly stages of our inception. When we allow the Lord to shift our mindset, we begin to see that everything that has ever happened to us and has happened for a reason. If we look back at the sprout that pushed itself through the ceiling of dirt above it, we discover reasons behind our adversity that were previously invisible and unimaginable. Now they are suddenly apparent and miraculous when we arrive at the fruit-bearing stage. Looking back at different periods of my life, I remember how fearful I was. Now, standing upon just over 40 years of ministry, I look at those places and realize they were integral to where God has taken me and where He will continue to take me. I see that each growth interval of my life was preceded by a planting phase where I was buried in a dirty place. I began to understand the stages in my life where, at the time, I was certain I was about to meet my end, where seed stages for the next season. I could not have produced the fruit without the frustration. That's powerful. And God could not ferment my fruit into His wine for maximum potency without my willingness to relinquish it to His winepress. Though I have not liked the process, my faith has grown deeper as I discovered this new viewpoint. I've been changed by this shift in perspective as I accept that God never intended to lead me to a dead place and leave me there. The seeming death through which He escorted me was merely the precipice of a new beginning, and a new beginning is what the planting and death of each seed is all about. Through those stages, I arrived at the truth. God wasn't burying me, He was planting me. Transformation requires sacrifice, and I wonder if you have misinterpreted the wine dresser's intention. Instead of condemning you to a graveyard, which is what you may feel, God is planting you in richer soil for greater fruit. Remember, God is at work, and there's no place too dirty for Him to use as the rich soil of your maturation and spiritual fruition. Wherever you are, or whatever your dirty place may be, look around and allow the Master to adjust your thinking. After all, God is not done with you yet. Quality takes time, and you are God's masterpiece. God's strategy. Have you noticed our human propensity to brood over the disastrous at the expense of the prosperous? Wow! We do anything and everything to avoid the hideous experiences of life, never grasping the fact that the sprouted seedling could never understand the process of cultivation from its own limited point of view. Similarly, it is a striking blow to our limited comprehension of God to accept that He would use the most unorthodox procedures and inhospitable environments to develop us into something more, something teeming with the potential for dynamic growth. But what's better than being undone and marred in the hands of if a new way of living in abundance are the promised results? Not sure what happened there, but anyway, moving on. What if all you suffered in your life were without okay, let's open. What if all you've suffered in your life without was necessary to cultivate your greatness within? We fight against God's sovereignty because we dislike where His process has placed us. Where the Lord found you, however, and where He decides to plant you can be quite different. We're all being grafted into a supernaturally cultivated vine. And this merging takes time and costs us the comfort of everything we consider comfortable and familiar. That is so true. Having your life upended and every recognizable detail removed from your environment produces trauma. But the Master is intentional in how He relocates the wild shoots of our lives and moves them into the unrecognizable fields of promise. This is the secret to accepting the visible violence of the turbulent times. We must remember that soil must be upturned, or else it will go fallow, depleted of its nutrients and minerals and unable to accommodate new growth. The act of cultivation is married to our purposeful displacement because anything grown in the wild does so without the careful hand and watchful eye of an intentional vine dresser. Cultivation speaks order into chaos, orchestrates harmony from disharmony, draws care from carelessness, and provides direction to aimlessness. Cultivation wants to grow and create where growth and creation seem to be impossible. Any farmer or agriculturalist understands this, but many of us miss the point within our own lives. We choose our own way of seeing, believing, and acting because we think we know better. As a result, we miss our true identity and the blessings we could have had if we would have simply submitted to the process. God is adamantly invested in developing us into something we would never be without His direct intervention. When we find ourselves broken, battered, beaten, and bruised by our circumstances, it's possible that the Master who we're praying will remove and solve the problem. I feel like there are words left out. Anyway, is the very one who sanctioned it and is using it to accomplish some greater effect. Out of all my years of teaching, preaching, mentoring, and living through hellish ordeals, I believe that our maturation requires that we be constricted to His methods and imprisoned by His purpose. You see, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the most interesting people in the world, and no one was more surprised than I was. In my wildest dreams, I never imagined sitting across from the CEO of AT&T or getting to see Oprah Winfrey move and operate from the worlds of film, television, and print media, because the seed of who I was could not comprehend the fruit I would bear and the wine I would become. I didn't suddenly wake up as the person you see today. I was developed into this, and God is still fostering even more within me. None of what you see in my life happens because of magic, luck, or happenstance. All of it is the fruit of purpose, cultivation, and time, the culmination of myriad random details coalescing into something beautiful. And I believe God is doing the same in you through His own purposeful strategies. To put it simply, the seed doesn't understand the vine that it's becoming. Everything that occurs in its life appears to be happenstance because all it can see is the muck and mire it's trying to escape. It's when we are vines that we can look back at what we used to be and notice what appears to be accidents, incidents, and coincidence converged to produce what we are and the fruit that hangs from our branches. Will you let Him work, or will you run from the challenging seasons? I promise you, what's on the other side of your growth is much better than you can imagine. God doesn't expect you to wrap your mind around how you should grow. He only expects your trust as you seemingly stumble your way through the process, because growth is riddled with constant change and correction. It's through the stumbling in our lives that the Master takes us from the seed stages to the fruit-bearing stages. And it's through our own planning, stubbornness, and need to have our way that we derail ourselves. But God did not arrange every single step of your life to this point to leave the weight of your future solely in your hands. He has not brought you this far to culminate a cul-de-sac of constraint. To the human eye, He provides a random blessing or lesson, but it's all part of your cultivation. With God, nothing is wasted. He redeems even our darkest moments by allowing us to become a prism of His light. I love that part. That's really nice. I like how this chapter's come to fruition. And then in italic after that it says, now that you've considered the trials it takes for a seed to become a plant, use your own plant to reflect on the process. As you care for it, water it, and await its growth, remember that your life is a part of this maturation. Wherever you are in the planting process, trust God to develop His purpose in your life. You have been planted with a purpose. Can I get an amen to that? Yeah. Even if just that last sentence, if you can just receive that and believe it and take it in, you can choose. I reckon it's quite a good choice to agree and to think that you have been planted with a purpose. You have a purpose here. You're not here for nothing. You're not alive for no reason or for gloom and doom. You have a purpose. There is potential, and the potential of you that you have still yet to grow into and integrate with. And, you know, it is a process. And the process is like the in-between spaces. And, yeah, I can agree. It is sometimes it feels like I can relate to some kind of small portion of what Jesus might have gone through, you know, whilst dragging the cross. Sometimes I've had those visualizations because sometimes in my uncomfortable seasons or in the process, I've endured suffering and pain and sometimes confusion, or sometimes just things that I couldn't explain and couldn't understand. Yet, choosing not to give up or to walk away, and choosing to keep on keeping on and being determined that on the other side of what I'm going through, or at the end of the tunnel, which you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. Movement is in it's like I don't even know how to articulate this properly. Movement is essential to life. It is, you know, it's a part of everything. Anyway, so yeah, and why wouldn't you want to grow as a person? Why wouldn't you want to grow spiritually. I mean, it's beneficial to you and it can help your experience of life in the long run. And even in the short run, you never know. Ultimately, you don't know. And I think that's one of the points that T.D. Jakes is trying to drive home here. And that trust component is very important. And for me, sometimes I think, okay, I don't know. But I know the one who knows. And that gives me some comfort because it's like, okay, and I can just place my trust in him and know that he's looking out for me, he's covering me, he's my provision, he's protecting, he fulfills his promises. And and me renewing my mind of who God is and what his promises are, and spending time in the word, spending time praying. Praying is powerful. Prayer is powerful. It's amazing. Yeah. Email me if you got a prayer request. Anytime, literally anytime. And I would love to pray for you. And and I encourage you to do the same. It's part of growth in communication as well. It's a part of the way you can serve. It's a part of the way you can just be a part of the process and feel like more connected also with your purpose, with the journey to that realization of what your purpose is. And God will show you. He will show you, and he will guide you. And I think a while ago I made that video I read out of a certain section of my book, and it said, and I spoke about your gut and how it's your guide. And some people might think of that as God or the Holy Spirit. But, in each version that I try to make it relatable. And so that can sometimes come to also what I'm thinking about now is instinct, intuition. And I'm not going to make like a 6-eye type of thing or a 4-eye thing. Just intuition, instinct, process, growth, development, trust. You're not the first, last, or only what you're going through. There are people out there, and it's really helpful to talk to someone, possibly someone older than you, someone that's maybe been through something like what you've been through, because sometimes, and maybe there's an opportunity in a conversation that you're having with someone else, or there's an opportunity where you can have a coffee with someone, or meet this person, whoever it is, or just be alert for those opportunities in which you can possibly get some guidance in what you're going through, and I think what I'd recommend on top of that is like to seek God and to seek the kingdom first, and but it's also very important. I want to highlight that having a relationship with him is really something that can really help you through life. If I didn't have a relationship with God, and if I had never chose to get saved at the time that I did, it was like divine timing. And at some point I do want to tell my testimony in some way, but I still want to just do it in front of and for other people in person. I think it's the best way to practice, because it's quite difficult to speak about. But the before the BC, before Christ, and in that moment where I chose to make that decision and after. Because I don't have a, well, everyone's got a different story, but I don't have a story that is, yeah, I mean, okay, how can I put it? You would need to just maybe sit down for it, or, yeah, sometimes I think that it can get a bit emotional for other people. But yeah, so I sometimes get hesitant to share. Then again, if I can relate, or if other people tell a story or their testimony that is quite deep, I sometimes feel like, oh, okay, wow, I can meet them there, even though it's like I'm holding in tears, but I can meet them there. There's some people that and I can relate, and there's something in that. I think that, yeah, there's something in that is like literally contributing to feeling less alone, and that links back to you're not the first, last, only. And so I think, yeah, I want to just encourage to, continue making connections, reaching out to people, voicing yourself, trying to step into who you are, into your purpose, into your journey, your walk of life, to move, to take opportunities, good, especially if it's opportunity to do good. That's when that's just a suggestion, and know that you are blessed to be a blessing, and you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And like he said, and this is something that I often say, and it is true, and it's like, and I just want to highlight it again, but for whoever might need to hear it, God is not done with you. Don't write yourself off from this life. God is not done with you. And that, is exactly where I want to end off. You are loved. And hugs. Yeah, I hope you can feel the love tonight, in the air, in the oxygen. Breathe in and out. And yeah, know that is love, that is life, that is something to be grateful for. I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful that if you listened this far, I'm grateful for that. I appreciate it. And don't give up, okay? Stay. There is joy on the horizon. There's new mercies every morning. You can go to God. He's not going to reject you. He just wants to love you. And you'll notice that, like, sometimes there are people blessed in your life that are kind of like that. That they just love you. They're nice to you. They are respectful to you. They're a blessing to you. They help you. They're people you want to be around, that make you feel good, and that you are the most present that you can be in that moment with them, and that you can give of yourself, but not your whole self over, and you can also receive good company. And I don't know where I'm going exactly with this, but be bold and courageous. You have that within you. And I think, yeah, I just want to say, I think this is what I was trying to get to, is like, don't be afraid to reach out. That fear, that is like worth overriding. Like, don't give into that fear. Come on, don't be afraid to reach out. And this, I'm hearing this as I say it right now, because sometimes, even like sometimes I can get like to the point where I'm afraid to reach out, but sometimes I get to a point where I'm hesitating, or I'm like back and forth. I'll type a message, or I'll call and then I'll put down the phone, or um, sometimes I will choose like to just not, and then I'll be isolated. My thoughts will come, and I'm like, but even there, you can call on God, and you can invite Him into your presence, and you can ask Him to help you. And though it's more helpful to be open to receive than to be closed because you're scared, or you're um, in fear, like of what could go wrong. No, what could go right? What could go right? Maybe I spoke too much now. Oh gosh, okay. I don't know, I'm just trying to get to whatever it is that I ultimately should like get to say. Maybe there's something that I wrote down somewhere that I could say. Actually did write something down somewhere. Okay. Okay, so Hebrews 4 verse 16. I wrote this down today. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. So I'll leave you with that. Lots of love and peace, and I hope you sleep well. Hope you have a good day. Again, a reminder, find something to be grateful for. Write it down. You should have a notebook and a pen, and yeah, it's really, really helpful. It's part of the life survival kit. Okay. Ciao.